it is very important for you to understand that basic body movements that we have been doing our whole life the wrong way lead to the tight muscles you're experiencing today. Your hips, your shoulders, your lower back, your knees, all the muscles surrounding all the primary parts of the body, mainly parts of the joints where the muscle is attached to, suffer this whole time without you even knowing it. The world changes because of your doing. Not the world, your world. I want to piggyback off of the last video I made, which was just to kind of give you a chance to expose some of the muscle imbalances in your own body, just by way of doing, a basic squat assessment on yourself. Nothing strenuous, no weight involved, purely body weight squat, and focusing on the mechanics of your limbs, if everything's proportionate and lined up correctly, your posture is maintained, and any of the points of your body that break off the line. There's a reason why. Again, this dates back to when you first started to do any type of physical activity in school. Nobody's teaching you form. They're just telling you do this and do this many times. So you do it. And you never really get educated on that because that's not a curriculum. It's teaching physical fitness and the correct techniques, forms, mainly because teachers don't have that background for the most part. At least this is my experience when I was in school. I don't know how it is today. Obviously not today speaking because of the coronavirus, but leading up to this day, this year, nobody's really teaching you how to correctly do exercises. In high school, middle school, you just do it. You go through it. You're not taking it serious. You're just trying to get a A or a C, D passing grade just to get to the physical education class. People don't take it serious. Lo and behold, that is one of the classes that you should have probably paid attention to most, because it's not just giving you through an hour of working out of some capacity. There are moments where there should be education taking place on why it's necessary. Maybe not today for you. You're 13 years old, 16 years old, but when you're an adult in the working world and your body's going through all these extreme movements on a consistent basis, your body starts to get tired, you get older, your muscles soften up, your bone density starts to become a little bit weaker. That's when all these problems are going to come knocking on your door to collect in full, and you're not going to be able to pay. So understanding the tight hips and your muscles and targeting them now, no matter how old you are, today is now, okay? Don't worry about what's been done through the past, because it's not your fault if you never really were told. At the same time, it's important to make sure you're doing things that are safe and healthy, but making sure you're maximizing the movements. This is no different when it comes to a squat. Just because you're not putting weight onto it and the body moves doesn't mean that you can't hurt yourself. The body combines of a lot of different muscles and tissues and ligaments and tendons that our skeleton is attached to and primarily basically responsible for. So all that's going to be pinpointed from just the way that we move our body in general. When you're squatting, I guarantee you one of two things is happening, and this is probably 9 out of 10 of you. Your feet, your toes, they turn outward, which would make you overcompensate usually by widening your legs, because you don't feel you're as stable when you have your feet hip width apart. So you widen your legs, you turn your toes out, and that's your squats. In the fitness industry, that could even be considered a sumo squat, which is a real movement, but not on accident. There's a primary purpose for a sumo squat or any variation of the squat. I'm talking about just a basic squat mechanic. Toes and knees lined up forward, posture strong, squatting, pulling the hips back, making sure that your knees don't turn in, making sure that your feet stay lined up forward, hip width apart, your knees lined up over the mid toe, down and up. Basic mechanics. Sit down in the chair, stand back up. You'd be surprised how many people can't actually do a real squat, understanding that you don't want a muscle imbalance. So when that happens over and over and over and over, you're doing, if you're working out multiple times a week, maybe in a group class, or you just do it as a warm-up, you're doing squats, jump squats, and you're doing the mechanics incorrect, but it doesn't affect you right there and then, because the body knows how to adapt. Maybe you're not doing the correct squat because certain muscles are tighter or weaker than others, but your body knows how to adapt. It will do the squat because that's what it does. But what it's doing is it's using other muscles that aren't really responsible for the movement to take over. An example, let's say that you're playing a sport, okay? Baseball, you're third base. Your responsibility is your area. You're trained in your area. But if you are lacking in certain parts of your position, the shortstop or the left fielder or even the pitcher have to sometimes go out of their working area that they're responsible for to help you, to the point to where now they're helping you doing your job more than you're doing your job. They're doing something that they have not been training to do at the capacity that you should be training to do. So now they're working hard, overtime, and they're not getting paid more. They're getting tired, they're fatiguing, they're overtraining. This is how injuries happen. This is how certain muscles start to depend on other muscles in this primary situation. The third baseman now depends on the surrounding players to pick up his slack. So he's not really learning anything, not getting better because it's adapted to the help from other areas. That's what you're doing with your body. When you're doing basic movements and you're overcompensating, an example like a squat, you do a squat, your knees turn in. You have weak muscles on your booty. You know, your glutes are weak. The outer part of your legs, your thigh on the outside is weak, which is why your knees turn in, because they're not strong enough to stay lined up. That makes the muscles on the inside of your legs, the adduction muscles, work harder because they're pulling everything in because your glutes and your outside of your thighs aren't strong enough to stay lined up. The term is called synergistic dominance, which is not good. Again, it takes me back to that analogy on the baseball field. Your inner thighs, your adductors, shouldn't be working as hard when they're doing something that your glutes and your VMO, your vastus medialis obliques, which is the thigh outside of the thigh, should be doing. So the body's not working together. It's not in sync. So you're completely disrupting the entire movement. The whole world changes. Not the world, your world. Because you're creating these movements over time unknowingly because it's not affecting you today. It's not hurting you. It's uncomfortable because you can't do the regular squat, so you overcompensate to make it a little bit more comfortable. But then your knees start to take a toll, your hips. You're changing the positioning of body that is already adapted to doing something specific. You just got to strengthen the muscles around it. But instead of doing that, you do what's called relative flexibility. You do what's easier. You go the path of least work, which would be to squat and turn your toes out. Which again leads me to synergistic dominance, to muscle imbalances, certain muscles working harder than others. All of this can be recognized off of a basic squat through the eyes of somebody that is educated and understands muscles that are tight, muscles that are weak, and how to strengthen and stretch the specific muscles for the specific movement you're trying to target. So again, all that all boils down to, if you don't know what to do, seek the help of a fit professional, because this is really where it gets detailed. You know, people put weights, dumbbells, bench press. Form is always wrong. Every time I see people working at a gym, most people aren't doing the correct thing, but they're doing something as opposed to somebody that's not working out. So the step is there as far as having a goal, and you want to go out there and make it happen. But you got to make sure you're doing things correct way, and that's going to start with just body weight movements, your squats, your push-ups, your plank holds, basic things before you even think about adding weight. So next time that you're doing any movements like that, just focus on body weight before you add the weight. And then now start to check out your form, your body mechanics. All the things I was naming. Are your toes turning out during your squat? You know, are your knees turning in during your squat? Are you bending over at the hip during your squat? Are you arching your back during the squat? These are all reasons that there's muscle imbalances somewhere that need to be stretched or strengthened. So talk to the fitness guy. You can talk to me or talk to somebody you trust and has been your coach, because it's important for them to be able to show you the correct stretches to do, the correct strength training movements to pinpoint these muscles that need it. You don't need to overtrain certain things just because you're lacking an area. No, you need to pinpoint where's the lack. Don't overstrengthen this one, but not focus on this. Now all you're doing is making these muscles wear more hats. You know, it's not their job to do certain movements in the body. The whole body has to work and exist together. Otherwise, the whole thing collapses. And that leads to injuries. That leads to muscle imbalances. And that just leads to the opposite of results. Not the results you want anyways. So instead of doing 50 squats without paying attention to your form, you know, you're flopping, the momentum's building, you're not even squatting, you're just pulling your knees forward and you're just going through the motion, you're not doing yourself any benefits. You're doing yourself a disservice. So take those very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Cautiously when you're doing them. Anytime you're doing a warm-up, you're in a class, you're doing anything, don't cruise through the warm-up. It's a warm-up for a reason. Your bodies need to loosen up so that way they can perform these activities you're going to demand of it. We got to loosen tight muscles. This is why you should always begin with the foam roll. You go through a foam roll and a series of active stretches depending on what you're going to do, so that way you prepare your body for that specific workout, because workouts aren't all the same. You know, you're walking on a treadmill, or you're light jogging, or you're doing box jumps and explosive burpees with ball throws. These are two different workouts that require two different types of warm-ups. So make sure that you're starting your workouts the appropriate path. Always foam roll, my opinion. Always choose the appropriate warm-ups that can progress you towards the workout that you're going to be doing. And then focus on the form before you touch any weight, because that's important. Today, it's important. Tomorrow, it's going to be important 20 years from now. All right? You don't want to have a hunchback. You don't want to have pinched in hips. You want to have a good, proportionate, structured body symmetry from the muscle to the skeletal system. Everything firing off together, completing the entire anatomy of your body. Don't overlook anything. Don't skip leg day, because then your lower back's going to have to work too hard just to help you stand upright. Then everything collapses. Lower back is a whole conversation by itself. But focus on your form. Don't let these muscles slack, and don't put too much pressure on the muscles that are capable of doing their work. They don't need to do other people's work. Teach your body how to be efficient. Get help to teach your body how to be efficient. All right. Talk to you in the next one.